what we realize is that a big thing, this is like a paramount thing that you come to realize, that total awareness is actually total fear. And I know some people are going to have struggle with that for a moment. And it's just because English uses all of the same terms to explain different modes of thought on purpose. So when I say awareness, some people think, oh, are you talking about consciousness? Because see, awareness and consciousness are similar to being the same word, right? What awareness, the awareness I'm talking about is how present are you in the situation that you're dealing with at that moment? At that moment, not overall, at that moment. This is acute awareness. So the reason why I say that fear is the ultimate version of, or fear is the ultimate version of awareness. And it's because, let's say, for instance, all of a sudden you start seeing this car careening towards you. At that point, how present you become in that moment is way more than you could ever accomplish with most of the things that you deal with in the reality right now. So this fear of whatever is going to take place within those moments brings you so present to yourself. You're right there in the body. Now, the interesting thing is that it's actually the same with many substances. Let's say, for instance, until you learn how to react and stop reacting, something like DMT, when you take that substance, because what's happening has never happened before, and the things that you're seeing you've never saw before, there's this huge awareness that starts to become all purveying, like you basically are afraid. Oh my goodness, what's going to happen? Am I going to lose my mind? Something's going to come out of the reality? Is it going to eat me? So all these things start happening all at once. And this is bringing you into this acute awareness of where you're at that moment. And of course, in that acute awareness, you actually can't get out of the body. And this becomes something to start to realize from your own experience. The more aware you are and pinged you are in a certain point, the more identified you are with who you are in this moment. And then what that means is that if for some reason you wanted to slip into another reality, you wouldn't be able to do it right then because you're too aware, right? And I'm not saying what's good and what's bad. I'm just telling you the states of our consciousness, the states of our being. And this brings me to the next point is that the two people that I've run into in this reality during my lifespan here that I knew could get out of the body and had been able to exhibit very strange things while I was around them, both said the same thing. The way that they were able to get into this other realm and to be able to go into these altered states is because they had a heightened level of relaxation. They knew how to relax and let go. So of course, if you're afraid of something, then the moment something bumps, the moment you see something that you feel like you're scared of or whatever, then of course that brings you more present, and then you can't get out of that scenario. You can't get out of that situation. So the next level of this then is to realize that ultimate relaxation, what that allows you to do is it allows you to pass through the membranes in the reality, right? So it's almost like you start leaving no signature because you're not responding. So the reality and what holds you into it starts to lose its connection to you. And then in that process, you can kind of slip right by the guards, as I say. Or what's really happening is that the reality is porous. It's like, from the size of nano or atomic molecules all the way up to fat particles, right? And when you start to leave less and less signature, you become smaller and smaller and smaller because you don't need any recognition, right? So out in the reality, that's why I say ego is so dangerous, because the more and more recognition you need, the more attention that you need, the more you're willing to do. You're even willing to betray people that are around you and others that need your help, right? So the thing is that the more that we get into one direction of our consciousness, it always equals the same thing, an extreme exhaustion of energy, versus one level is extreme conservation. So then you can see why the reality always wants to enlist an emotional reaction from you, because there's all these things around, whether they're inorganic or organic, vying for you to make an emotional expression so that it can get its food. So even further, if we want to keep going on with this, we realize that, again, the entire reality is predatory. Because if you notice how a bird is not going to sit there and wait to decide when you walk by, I wonder if it's a good human. Or another animal walks by, I wonder if it's a good animal. It immediately goes into the action of fear and then runs off and at least gets to a safe area before it looks back and sees, hey, what was that? Because 9 times out of 10, whatever is coming by for that little bird is probably going to either try to consume that bird or hurt that bird in some way or another. That's the bird's experience. So the same thing with many other organisms that are in this reality is that they're very aware of the predatory nature in this reality. So their first reaction is actually in the inclination of fear. And what I say is that all that does is it pushes the pendulum in a certain direction. And that direction is naturally decaying our consciousness. It's naturally decaying our body, naturally decaying who we are. So it's not just blaming the people around you that are actually engaged in that. It's realizing that you're actually in an entire reality that is designed that way. And then when you know that, then you can stop reacting to all the things, or start the process of not reacting to all the things that are happening around you constantly to get some of this energy.